Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. John Ondrasik of Five for Fighting rocks the anthem in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday, July 5th. He joined me to discuss his biggest hits from Superman It's Not Easy to 100 Years, as well as his diehard passion for hockey and whether Alex Ovechkin can break Wayne Gretzky's all-time goals record. Hey, John Ondrasik. Hey, thanks so much for joining us on WTOP.
Nice to be here, Jason. How you doing?
I'm good. We're talking because Five for Fighting, which is your, alter ego, it's coming to the anthem here in DC on July 5th. Now, you and I spoke like in 2017 when you played the Memorial Day concert. If you want to check that out in the archives, folks. But that when it's a show like that, you gotta, you play the patriotic stuff, whatever. But this one at the anthem is gonna be like the big full, all of your stuff. So, what are we gonna hear? Is it greatest hits, or is there like any new albums you're working on that you're gonna try some stuff out, or what we got?
Well, we're opening for the Barenaked Ladies, so it's going to be more of a party show. It's a fun summer show, but of course, being in DC, the day after the 4th of July, we'll certainly play a song that recognizes our troops, our military families. So it should be a lot of fun. We'll play 100 Years, we'll play Superman. There's something for everybody. The guys are really excited. As I said, it's always special to be in the capital of our country, and we're raring to go.
I'm glad you're raring to go. So we're raring to see you. So wait, so if you're playing on the 5th, does that mean you're going to get in, a day or two early and get to be in the nation's capital for the 4th and see the fireworks or anything like that? Or you get in pretty late night and won't have a chance?
Unfortunately not. We're actually playing Raleigh, up the street from you guys, down the street from you guys, on the 4th. And so we'll be doing there. We're excited about that. But we do have an off day in DC, so I'll certainly be doing a jog through the mall, seeing some friends, going to Georgia Brown's, hitting all my favorite DC joints, and seeing some friends on the Hill as well.
Awesome. Well, either way, a little of that 4th of July summer party magic will still carry over for the 5th. I'm sure, even if you won't be here for the exact technical 4th. All right, cool. And say a little bit more about the Barenaked Ladies. They must be so much fun. I saw them open for, who was it? I think like Hootie and the Blowfish at Merriweather. I think that's what it was. But they're such a good show. But what's it like, getting to tour with them?
It's great. We've been talking about it for a few years, and we have the same agent. We're actually on the Chicken Little soundtrack. There's a little trivia for you. Together back in 2005.
Wow.
I've always been fans of theirs. A lot of my guys in my band are Canadian, so we got a lot of Canadian love. And yeah, as you said, they put on one of the best live shows in the world. So it's exciting to go back to the future, and folks will, hear some of their hits. They'll hear some of our hits. We'll have some fun. We'll play some covers. I will be playing the song that I wrote for Ukraine, that when I went to Ukraine and filmed the video with the Ukrainian orchestra. So I'll be talking a little bit about my experience in Ukraine and that song and kind of where it came from. So, we'll have some laughs, maybe some tears, and but certainly a lot of joy and a lot of fun on the summer night.
Awesome. Sounds great. All right. Well, I guess whenever I have someone on, I love to sort of chart your journey a little bit. If we have, young aspiring musicians, they always love to hear how you got started. So, I know you're born in LA, in the 60s. Like what did you grow up listening to? How did you start playing piano? I want to know like a good early roots of your music origin story.
Yeah, sure. Mom was a piano teacher, so she started me very young, 2 years old on the piano, kind of learning the instrument. My dad was actually an astrophysicist at NASA. So I had these two parts of my brain going on as a child. I always loved music. When music was kind of cut out of the LA Unified Schools, my mom took over, started doing musicals. So I was Tony in West Side Story, but I always found myself kind of as this lover of pop music. Of course, the Billy Joels, the Elton Johns, the Joni Mitchells, but I love classic rock. I love Led Zeppelin. I love The Who. I love AC/DC. And I love the singers, right? I love the great singers of my kind of early teenage years. And who were they? Of course, Steve Perry from Journey, Freddie Mercury from Queen. And I found Steve Perry's voice teacher. So I started taking voice in my early teens.
What do you mean you found him? You just looked him up in the phone booth, or how did you track him down?
No, I have a lot of friends like teaching. LA was kind of the home for a lot of the big voice teachers, right? Because all the rockers were here. This guy was teaching Axl Rose and Jack White and all these guys and Steve Perry. So I found him. Actually, most of us trained operatically, which many folks don't know. So you kind of train operatically, and there was actually a time, kind of in my early 20s, do I want to go opera or do I want to go pop or rock. And as I said, I wasn't listening to Pavarotti. I was listening to Led Zeppelin, and just started writing songs and playing shows. And I was fortunate the stars aligned. I was I'm one of those 15-year overnight success stories, right? I grinded and grinded and had a record company close on me, but wrote thousands of songs and persevered and worked with some amazing people, and tried to kind of do the business side as well as the music side. A lot of kids aspiring don't understand there's a business side that frankly is more critical than your talent. So you have to do kind of all that stuff. And fortunately, I had a few songs that people embraced, and here we are 25 years later, and they're still singing them back to me. So I'm very blessed. I don't take it for granted. But I tell kids, there's kind of three things, write a lot of songs, record your songs, listen back to them, learn, evolve, work with great people, and play live. The hardest thing is play live. It's scary, but you'll learn more about your song in 2 minutes playing it live than 2 years playing it for your friends. So that's my advice to aspiring songwriters.
Wow, there it is. The 3-step process by John. There you go. Everybody, follow suit. Awesome. Well, you said one record label closed on you. So but you did eventually sign with EMI and founded, Five for Fighting. A lot of people hear it and they probably think it's like a band, but it's kind of just like you know what I mean? Like your alter ego, kind of, right?
Well, it's funny, in EMI Records in the late 90s, we just finished my first record, and they came to me and said, hey, we want a band name. It's the age of Lilith Fair, boy bands, grunge. Yeah. They're the singer-songwriter is dead. And I was kind of halfway insulted, but I wanted my record to come out, and I just come from a hockey game, and hockey fans, Caps fans will remember Marty McSorley, Wayne Gretzky's bodyguard, and he got in a fight that day, and they said, we need a band name. I kind of spit out Five for Fighting, expecting them to hate it. And they're like, we love it. I'm
it
like,
is catchy.
You're nuts. You're wacko. It sounds like we should be opening for Metallica. And early in my career, I was booked in all these heavy metal gigs with a keyboard playing Superman. Imagine that, so people were moshing and having, but anyways, it's actually paid great dividends. It makes it about the music. It's allowed me to play some incredible sporting events that probably John Ondrasik doesn't play. So yeah, we're one and forever Five for Fighting, for better or worse. And here we are, kind of right in the middle of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So it's good timing for Five for Fighting.
Yeah, exactly. It's very catchy. Five for Fighting in the penalty box. There you go. One time I want him to flip it. I want one of the referees to, there's like high sticking or something, and they just say 5 for John Ondrasik. Just slip it in there one time.
I just want a band called Two for Hooking so they could open up for us,
Two for hooking, but that might carry a different connotation.
That's true. Maybe we should go Two for Roughing.
Roughing, yeah, offsides or something. Yeah, no, it's brilliant. Speaking of which, just real quick, I want to get to some of your biggest hits before we run. But while we're on the hockey thing, do you think Alex Ovechkin has a chance to break Gretzky's goals record ever, or do you think it's too far out there?
If you would have asked anybody 3-4 years ago, they would have said no way. But I think he's going to do it. The dude is just, he's strong. He doesn't get hurt. He's ageless. He's, you could just put him on the power play. He's going to score you 30 goals just sitting there on the corner wing. So I think he's going to do it. And I'm excited for him. And I'm excited for Caps fans. And I think even Wayne's excited, to see somebody kind of break an unbreakable record. So, I know the folks in your town certainly are grateful for him, and was so excited to see him get a ring and be passed out in a fountain drinking out of the cup. One of the greatest things I've ever seen.
The town was insane when they won the Stanley Cup. Those guys, they celebrated like no one had ever celebrated, but the town was all for it. And I'm glad that they got that. And it feels like we're far away from another Stanley Cup, but at least the OV record, the goals chase, will keep us interested for another couple years there, hopefully. Who's your favorite hockey player ever? I have to ask.
I'm an LA Kings guy. You see my jerseys up there. For those of you watching, there's my Luc Robitaille jersey next to my Pat Tillman jersey. But yeah, there's a guy named Dave Taylor back in the day. Old hockey fans remember he played for the Kings on the Triple Crown line, and he was great. He was a guy, he was tough. He could score, he could pass, he could go in the corners. He was a GM for the Kings who actually drafted Drew Doughty and some of their superstars. So yeah, Dave Taylor, he's hanging in the rafters. He should be in the Hall of Fame. That's my favorite player of all time.
Just from this podcast, they'll listen to this and put him in the Hall of Fame. This will be what gets it over the edge, I'm
The
sure.
tipping
Probably
point, you
not.
pushed it over.
The tipping point. All right. Well, back to the music really fast. Obviously, after that first album, Message for Albert, 97, the big one that you blew up on was the second one, America Town, in 2000. Of course, it featured one of the songs you already mentioned, Superman. I'm more than a bird, more than a plane. Even heroes have the right to bleed. All sorts of great turns of phrases in there. But how did you come up with it? Were you a big Superman comic book fan, or was it just like a helpful, a convenient analogy to sort of talk about something else?
Yeah, I think it was more the symbolism. It was one of thousands of songs I wrote. When I first wrote it, I frankly didn't think it was for me. I was doing the rock stuff, but yeah, it's just kind of you take an iconic kind of symbol and you twist it. I think so many people try to be the rock for everybody, try to be the hero in every aspect of their lives, and sometimes they forget about taking care of themselves. And I think that's why Superman resonated. When I first wrote it, I didn't realize there was like 7 other Superman songs and I probably never would have written it. But I think over the years, the reason why it's kind of still resonates is that kind of it speaks to our basic humanity. Is at the end of the day, we're just human.
Right.
We'd love to be Superman, love to fly. But at the end of the day, we do the best we can. So yeah, that's where it came from. I never could have imagined it would kind of take on the scale that it did. But even to today, the song makes a difference. And as a songwriter, that's a true blessing.
Oh, it's great stuff. It's one of those that you hear it, and I'm right back in that time period,
Yeah.
the early 2000s. And I hope you don't get confused, like you're saying. Hope you don't get confused with Three Doors Down or the great
It's okay.
John Williams.
Those are great songs too.
Yeah, it's absolutely. Well, they'll say the same about yours.
Yeah.
And then of course the next album was just equally as big, maybe even bigger. Went platinum, Battle for Everything in 2004. Another all timer, if you ask me. 100 years. It's recognizable from those first opening piano notes, but sort of how did you get the idea to sort of take us through, age 15, 22, 33, 45? It kind of it sort of covers a life cycle in a way. It's a brilliant idea. I want to know when it came to you.
Yeah, it was actually really hard to follow up Superman. How do you follow that song? It'd become like a song for 9/11, and a lot of young songwriters tend to kind of regurgitate their hit. You write the same song again. And I was struggling kind of finding the concept and a song that could follow Superman but kind of stand on its own. It took me a couple of years, but I think it really came from kind of the cliche, appreciate the moment, recognize the moment, right? That's what 100 Years is really about. And frankly, I'm not a person who was great at that. At that time in my life, I was kind of dwelling on, things I should have done in the past or pushing the goalpost. And I was sitting one day with my kids, they were 2 and 3 years old, kind of sitting there, and it kind of just hit me of, look, man, I mean, life's not always easy. Life's not always great, but right now you got a healthy family. You have a song that people know. Be grateful, recognize the moment, at least recognize the moment. And then that kind of triggered, well, what if there's this kind of song, a wish is never better than this, 100 years to live. Maybe the verses are stages of our lives. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what kicked it off. Usually these kind of these creative ideas come in bursts, I wish I was Elton John, or I wish I was Paul McCartney, that every day I could write a standard. Most of us are not.
Most of us mere mortals can't do that.
So these bursts kind of come when you're least expecting it, and you have to recognize them and then take the time to write it down. And it took 3 months to craft the song. Superman came very quickly, but it took 3 months to craft that song. And but I think we did accomplish that. And I think you're right. I think for many folks, especially the younger generation, 100 years is probably more significant in the culture than Superman, because it's in so many home videos and graduations and weddings and funerals. It's still kind of that song. So once I had that song and it came out, I was, I wasn't a one-hit wonder, and probably today that's why we're still doing these shows, is those songs still resonate.
A good way to look at it. Yeah, there's songs that are radio hits, which this one was, obviously, but there's other songs that are, you could play at a wedding, and there's other songs that are, like you're saying, home video, what do you call it, like highlight montage songs. You can put your own family footage to, and this is perfect for it. That's longevity, baby. That's job security.
Yeah.
Well, we won't keep you all day, but I do want to hit two lights really fast because the Riddle and World were pretty big hits too. At least like adult contemporary stuff. Are you still pretty proud of that album? Do you think it still holds up? I haven't heard it in a while, but I should go back.
It's interesting, World in particular, even though the Riddle was a hit song, whatever that is,
Yeah.
World never really kind of caught fire, but since then it's become used in so many charities and really kind of defined a lot of what I'm doing with Ukraine and Afghanistan and a lot of our troops and the Gary Sinise Foundation. So that song really represents kind of more my life than the others. And we open with it, what kind of world do you want? And I do these keynotes and I do a lot of this stuff that really kind of came from that song. So it's interesting. A lot of songs of mine that weren't hit songs in many ways are as important to me or more important than others. And that's just kind of the nature of songwriting and be a musician. But yeah, Chances, from The Blind Side, some folks, that's all they know about Five for Fighting, the song Chances from The Blind Side, because
they never had the album Slice. They
yeah,
just know it from the movie.
So, and then even What If from, and the new song
from Bookmarks. Yeah.
Yeah. And the Ukraine song, the Afghanistan song, those are songs that never got one spin on the radio, but got tens of millions of views and were on television and all these things that frankly, Superman and 100 Years never had, so it's just interesting how songs find their way. And I'm just, blessed to still be doing it and have people who, kind of still care about my point of view.
I love it. Well, we definitely care about the point of view, and thanks for taking time to share some of it. I guess in final seconds, like what's next? Do we have another album coming out? Are you just touring like crazy? You have any other movie soundtracks like you mentioned, or what we got coming up next?
Yeah, no, I mean, we got the BNL tour this summer, doing some quartet shows in Cali in September, got some new songs in the hopper, continuing to work on Afghanistan evacuations and some Ukraine stuff. So there'll be more on that front, and even working with some of the folks up on the Hill there on some of these projects. So from both sides of the aisle. So got a lot of folks in your town kind of supporting some of this stuff, and I'm grateful for their support as well.
Now, when you mention, Ukraine, Afghanistan, refugees, evacuations, like you just said, are you saying you're writing more songs about that, or actually pushing, in real life, like, helping, lobbying for it?
Well, when Blood on My Hands came out, I started getting emails from many Afghan allies and Americans trapped to me, which was just insane. Yeah. So I joined some of these NGOs doing evacuations, and we still are doing it 2 years later. There's 13 girls still in Pakistan. We're trying to get out. Scott Mann, Save Our Allies, Operation Pineapple, Project Exodus Relief. And those are some of the folks that took me to Ukraine too, because they're doing heroic operations there. So for whatever reason, I'm certainly not on the ground, but I'm kind of active in these operations, trying to connect some dots and get these folks out and do the best we can. And I'll tell you, in a cynical world, in a cynical time, you meet some of these former Green Berets doing this work, so these families, and it inspires you. It makes you proud to be an American. And we're going to do the right thing no matter what. And I'm grateful to be partnered with some amazing folks.
Oh, that's great. Well, mad respect for all of that too, in addition to a career of great music that is still going, just getting started, John Ondrasik. Hey, thanks so much for joining us. Again, Five for Fighting, love the name. Five for Fighting is coming to the Anthem here in DC on July 5th. And I don't know if you've ever played there before, but it's a really cool spot right there on the wharf, right on the water there. So you're going to have a good time.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you, Jason. Pleasure talking to you. Look forward to seeing everybody, right around the 4th of July. And hello to all my friends in DC.
Sounds good. Thanks for joining us.
Right on, buddy. Take care.
All right, see ya. Thanks so much for joining us on Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Remember to hit the subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.